It's okay. It's fine. Kind of all
Okay.
the same. Go ahead.
Now, I was just going to tell you, okay, I already, um, I think as people are working with somebody, I mean, as a human at the bedside, and a lot of us want to do something when we are with a loved one as they're transitioning.
Yeah.
There's a few things we can do. One, I mean, I can think of, yeah. One, just a simple thing is holding the bottoms of their feet.
Mm.
And you can do it with your palms or even the backside of your hands, whatever feels right, because you want a connection, because sometimes they're flipped on their polarities. So you just feel what feels more like a magnet,
Mm-hmm.
and then that gives them a little bit of a grounding before they fly.
Oh,
So
okay.
that's one thing they can do. Then there's also, shared death awareness. So as their person is crossing, you just sit and you blend with your person who's crossing and just feel what's happening in the spirit world.
Nice.
Yeah.
I love that.
Um, I once I was attending a death of a priest, and um, as I arrive, I'm talking to the niece and her husband, and I'm kind of about maybe 10, 15 feet away from the patient who passed.
Hmm.
And so we're just having a little conversation about his life and so then as I move forward into his energy field within 3 feet, all of a sudden I feel like I'm transformed into another world.
Mm.
And in that point, when I'm in his field, I see the roses. I mean, the roses like 2 or 3 feet all around him. He had the best smile I've ever seen on anybody as they passed. And the roses, and I think, and I said, I didn't know this family. And I just said, I imagine that he's covered with roses. And the nephew-in-law said, I smell the flowers. So,
Wow.
it's like confirmation, right? And then I'm aware of organ music, like music playing.
Right.
And I just said, oh, I bet he's listening to music. And they said, yep, his favorite music was organ music. you know, it's like I had transformed into his world as he stepped across. And then one last thing about that happened was I could see over the top of his head, and this is very, I don't know exactly how to. I saw vines, green vines, coming from the top of his head and out, 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 like growing like a V, way high, big, long, too many plants and vines to count. But instead of a green leaf, it was a priest, and there was too many priests to count. It's like he went back and they were all wearing the same thing, a white robe, and I don't remember the color of the sash now, but they were there to bring him
Bring him
in.
in. Wow.
It's amazing, isn't it?
That is amazing. I love that.
But it's
Yeah.
just the idea that you can, as we move closer, and I feel like it's important to be in their field versus stepping away. I think it's easier if people want to do this with their loved one, step into the field and just be in the quiet to maybe get a small glimpse of what is around them, or a step into heaven for a moment.
Right. Right. Yeah. That's beautiful. You know, you may have noticed this when a lot of times when people transition, it's when there isn't anyone else around them.
Yeah,
Yeah.
right.
Do you have anything to say on that or
Oh yeah,
speak
because
to that? Okay.
that's very common. And I think what happens in my point of view is we're stuck they are stuck between two worlds of love. And
Yeah.
so how do you leave if somebody's holding your hand and talking to you or whatever, or even just being near you? It's harder to leave when they're right there. It's
Mhm.
like, okay, you don't want to hurt them. And so you wait till they're gone, and then you can it's easier to go into the other world of love if you don't have one world of love pulling on you.
Right.
That's what I think.
Yeah, I agree. I agree.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, and all three of my parents passed, left their body when we were out of the room.
Yeah.
Yeah. So,
Right, right.
so you're right. It's pretty. I find it's pretty common.
Yeah. I would say at least half, maybe more than half.
Hmm.
And then people feel guilty. I want to let people know, please don't feel guilty
No.
because it was their decision.
Mm-hmm.
They know about, they can change it a bit here and there.
Mm-hmm.
Once either that last person's come to say goodbye or the last phone call or whatever it is, even though they can't respond, they know what's happening in a spiritual level.
Sure.
On our spiritual level, our spirit eyes and our spirit ears are working, even though
Right.
our human ears and eyes may not be.
Good way to put it. Yes. Well said.
Yeah,
Definitely. Yeah.
because I've seen people hear from across the house, and when they used to have hard of hearing, and then they can hear across the house, and they'll tell you, "Oh yeah, no, it's in that napkin set is in that fourth drawer down." I mean, stuff like that.
That's
How
funny.
do you know we were just asking about that, right?
I know, right? Yeah.
Didn't you see me down the hall? Like
Right.
even like when my dad was transitioning, my sister saw him. Now his body was in bed, but she saw his spirit at the door trying to unlock the door and get out. I
Oh,
mean, it's such a great symbol, right?
I love that. That reminds me when my stepdad passed and I was napping on the sofa in the front room and he was in the bed. He was on hospice for a month to the day after he when he was released from the hospital. And he was on oxygen as well. And he passed and that a little while later he passed when nobody was in the room and a little while later as I'm napping I'm just waking up or I'm just in that in between state and I see my dad walking toward me and he's not looking at me and I'm like wait a minute 'cause I already knew he had passed, okay, so he had passed a little while earlier and I'm like okay, wait a minute, dad, because he didn't leave the bedroom for the whole month that he was on oxygen. I'm thinking, Dad, what? And then I thought, oh, wait a minute, you died. What are you doing? And I'm thinking this, and he's walking toward me and looks past me, and I hear him say, "How the H do I get out of here?" And then he walks right through me and he's looking at something past me. So there was obviously a doorway there or somebody was there to help cross him over because he's like,
Nice.
how do I get out of here? How the hell do I get out of here? Kind of thing.
Yeah. See, I think that's important. I think that a lot of people say that or feel that. How do I get out of here? I
Mhm.
want to go home. How do I go? Yeah. And one of the things that helped opening the windows. Oh,
Yeah.
in Europe they keep the windows open so the angels come and go, and that's how also another way for the person to travel out too.
Mm. Hmm.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
And something else that I did my first year or two in hospice was I would drum
Mhm.
for somebody as they were, getting closer, and it would give them like a taste sort of being able to make that journey.
Mhm.
And that was not, it was really beautiful to be able to do that. Hmm.
Yeah, yeah.
They go into that, like a little bit of a trance state. And it's easy when somebody's in transition already. They're already so ripe to
Mhm.
do a shamanic journey. Just, easy.
What about playing like classical or heavenly music? Those types of things. Do you
Uh-huh.
ever do that? Does family ever have that
Oh, yeah.
notion to do that?
So I think the music, it's important to have the right music.
Mm-hmm.
There is something called music thantology, which is about the breath work. So it's like a harpist, for instance, in Portland, Oregon, they have a lot of they have it's pretty common there.
Mm-hmm.
Music thantologists will come to the bedside and first tune in to the respirations of the patient
Oh,
and
okay.
play to match. And then as they're matching, she's matching energies, and then she moves it to maybe a more calm, to help move it, to move the respirations more calm. So if the music is, you can usually tell if it causes anxiety or if it causes more peace. Definitely you want to pay attention, because if it's too complicated, just like if you talk to somebody who's in hospice or dying, you can't talk real fast and you can't talk complicated.
Yeah.
Their mind cannot process that. So you have to go slow of everything and move slow, talk slow, and so the music also, or like TVs, right? I mean, no news, all that stuff, that can be scary.
Sure.
For them, but to have it as much calm as possible. But the best, if they loved classical, even though classical is very complicated, that might work for them if they loved it, if that was something that they knew. But I would just stick to what they already played before.
Okay.
A very common, wonderful music for soothing is lullabies, children's lullabies, and also country music tends to be very simple,
Okay. Yeah.
simple.
Simple folk, right?
So I think music is very helpful. And I wish more people would use music.
What about angelic type of because I
Oh
know
yeah.
that there's angelic voices or angelic singing, like that type of music. What about
Yeah.
that? That sounds like heavenly realms. What have you
Right, right. I think that's a wonderful idea. I don't know that if I have, it's been very rare that somebody would use that.
Okay.
But that's, I think, a wonderful idea. Lovely. I mean, really, I think it's wonderful.
Yeah, there's some YouTube videos of angelic type of music that I listen to when I go to sleep because it
Oh,
it just lifts me up when I'm sleeping and my dream I listen to my ear pods, the kind that you could sleep in. And it takes me to these higher realms while I'm sleeping and they sound like angels.
yeah.
And
Nice. I
mhm,
love that because I do think whatever we do when we're sleeping affects us. Absolutely.
definitely. Yeah.
Whew. And if we're sleeping and it affects us, imagine if you have a hospice patient who sleeps a lot,
Right.
right? You want something positive like that. That's a wonderful idea, Sharon.
Yeah, I think we die a little bit every night when we go to sleep.
Yeah. Yeah.
We transition a little bit every night and then come back because we're in the higher realms, and
Yeah.
so it's our what's it called? Respite or
Respite.
respite from the 3D world or from this world.
Yes. And I remember Yogananda would say every time he meditated, he felt like he died and then would come back
Oh yeah. Yeah, I get that
when he
too.
meditated.
Hmm.
Uh-huh. Um, I will just tell you one more story, see how we're doing on time.
Yep.
Okay. A story about Archangel Azrael. Azrael is the angel of death. Do you know? And if you look up Azrael online, it looks horrible. I mean, looks scary, purple, black, pointy, ugly, whatever. Like scary. They say, "Oh my God, the angel of death is coming for me." But I did have a lady, and she was pretty young. Oh God, I think she was only 42, and she had 5 kids. Some of them were stepkids. Didn't want to leave. The same common story when you're so young. But so she was fighting it quite a bit, and the family was fighting it too. I mean, they were doing every last effort to keep her here. But when I was with her, and the family had to go out of town. The husband had to go somewhere. The kids had to go back to college. I mean, things like this. They were gone, so they had to hire a caregiver to be there for like a week. I know.
Yeah.
But when they were gone, see, it's like the same situation. She could go easier.
Hmm. Hmm.
But what her caregiver did, who was very in tune to spirit, she had a shaman come. She did have chanting music. She had the colors. She had flowers. She had beautiful colors around her with blankets and silk scarves and things like that. And the essential oils, and then she gave her appropriate, medicine to keep her comfortable. And when I was sitting there, this is maybe 5 days before she passed, I could see, I didn't know it was Archangel Azrael at the time, but I do now because it was a big purple blanket looking thing and at the head of her bed and huge. I mean, it must have been 15. Now they had really high ceilings in her house. It was at least as high as the ceilings, and they were 15 to 20 feet. I know, really tall. Okay. And then on each side of Azrael was 2 green, again, fuzzy, soft blanket, smaller, and they felt like guards. Azrael felt like She's not going to make a wrong turn. There's no way we got this. There's no way she's making a wrong turn. All right.
All
And
right.
then these guards were like there too. And then a few days later, I saw in spirit, more like humans giving her energy work.
Mm.
And her spirit body was had lifted out of her human body, and the energy workers, there was 3 on each side. It just looked like they were doing Reiki or something. I mean, I'm sure it's a heavenly Reiki. I don't, you know what I mean? They were
Sure.
healing. They were doing healing.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And then I think it was the next day, all the angels were gone. All the spirit people were gone. It's like, what happened? You know, and she's still here, but I didn't see Ezreal anymore. And but I did, so I thought, okay, well, where is she? You know, so in my mind's eye, I'm tuning in. Where is she? She was walking down an aisle wearing a wedding dress with beautiful, I mean, she looked gorgeous. Flowers in her hair, flowers in her hands, and there was candles lighting her pathway, reddish orange. Everything was reddish orange, like a sunset.
Mm.
And she was just walking, and I don't know, she looked like she was going to a wedding, but she was by herself. And then she died just a couple hours after that.
Oh, wow. Well, that's crazy.
It is
Amazing.
crazy. And
Yeah.
then I talked to the husband, you know, a
Mm-hmm.
condolence call, and I told him, you know, my experience. And he said, well, I was just looking at a book about Archangel Azrael. It just came across, and I don't even believe in angels, he said, but I was reading about Archangel Azrael, and Archangel Azrael's purple. And then I said, oh, okay, this is right. It's
Yeah.
Archangel Azrael.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. And then when I
Nice.
wrote about Archangel Azrael later, she, I don't know, came back and like gave me a wink, like, you know, thank you for writing about it.
Oh, cool. I felt Ezreal, Archangel Ezreal is female when she's come around me. I actually worked with her for a little while when I was going through some change in my life, and she put her voice on a EVP recorder for me. Yeah.
Wow.
And
Oh
just,
my
she,
gosh.
I just heard Ezreal. I said, "Who's here?" And I hear Ezreal, and it like echoes through the
Oh,
mhm.
wow. Oh my gosh. I bet that
Yeah.
felt wonderful.
It
Did that
did.
feel
It
wonderful?
does. Yes. Yeah. Confirmed. And
I'm
just to hear his
assuming it
voice,
felt very loving.
definitely. Just to let me know that
Oh, nice.
Ezreal was here and that this is, yes, that you are working with me. We're working together.
Wow.
Yeah.
Nice.
hmm
There's a lot of transformation even now on Earth, right? I know your stuff you're probably talking about a few years ago, but
hmm
what do you think? I mean, I know that we're getting off hospice a little bit, but I do know a year or so ago when I was in Mount Shasta, and I was told by, I don't know, I saw some angels there in Mount Shasta with the Lemurians, you know,
Sure.
um, and they said that there's a lot of people that are leaving,
Yeah.
people, plants, animals, everything.
There are. Yeah,
And
definitely. Yeah, it's a lot going on. And I saw this 20 years ago after
okay,
my NDE or during my
they told
NDE.
you that then?
I saw a lot of transition on the planet, a lot of transition of, yeah, people and things that were happening on the planet that are happening now. I mean, as I was seeing it, I didn't, and that's part of what I'm writing about in my book too, and where didn't understand a lot of it. I didn't understand, is this the future? Is this the past? What is this? Because it wasn't really put into context for me at the time as I was experiencing it. But now it makes sense.
And how that was 20 years ago?
That was 20 years ago,
Wow.
2003. Yeah, when I was seeing it. So, and also the timeline I was looking at was uh pretty bad, meaning there was a lot more chaos, and we've averted that, what I saw. hmm
Wow. Oh my gosh, that's beautiful.
Yes, yes. And I'm not the only one who have said that in the circles I, run with and listen to, who has said that we have averted that timeline, that the timeline was not a good one, but we've averted it.
Uh-huh.
So
Wow.
yay to us.
Exactly, but we're still in it.
We're still
We
in it. We are, but it's not as it's not as bad. I guess you could say bad. It's not as bad as it looked to be 20 years ago.
Oh, wow. That's great.
Hmm.
Great news. Because I
Yes.
know what did we just go through? Is it something in Aquarius now? I forget. Pluto just moved
Pluto.
into Aquarius.
Hmm.
Yeah, which I think could be a big thing for transformation for everybody.
Yes, that's what I've heard too. It's because I know absolutely nothing about astrology, but I've heard too that it's new beginnings and freedom type of thing. Freeing ourselves of freeing ourselves of chains that have
Yeah.
been around us for a long, long time. Yeah,
Yeah. So that's awesome.
it is.
Oh, I want to tell you, for people who are interested in to hear signs or to
Yes.
know signs,
Yes. Mhm.
for anything about spirit, right? That and birds are one of these common messengers from spirit. I feel like, to me, fairies, dragonflies, dragons, even angels, they're all with the winged ones, and they all are messengers. I mean, and I just think it's so beautiful. But birds are special because we can see them, even though I do believe they can go back and forth from 3D to 5D or whatever D,
Hmm.
you know. But so the other day, I'll just tell you, because my stepmother passed, oh, about 3 or 4 weeks ago.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But a week before she passed, I had bought a bunch of bark mulch, and I know in Portland they say bark dust, they say mulch here. I know wherever you are in the wherever you are in the world, they'll have a different name for it. But the stuff you put on your garden.
Right.
And I had 20 bags, and I was carrying it back and forth, back and forth. And I have a bird bath. I do feed the birds, and I have a bird bath, and I had one lone blackbird. Blackbirds only usually are in a group.
Hmm.
There's one female, nothing special about her, just a female blackbird sitting on the bird bath. And I was walking by within 2 feet of her. I thought, now this is ridiculous. She's not moving. And I did. I literally did 20 bags back and forth next to her. And I thought, okay, I kept thinking, now there's a message. I did, but I didn't stop. I just want to get the bags done. I didn't
Hmm.
stop. I didn't stop. And so then I sat down at the end of the bags and I said, okay, what's the message? And so I felt my dad kind of give me the message through her that
Yeah.
it's going to be okay. It's going to be okay. And they've been going back and forth with my mom in hospice or not hospice. Um, and I thought, wow, okay. And then the bird flew off
Mm.
and it said, thank you. Now, the day before, 24 hours before she died, the blackbird, same female looking, I don't know if it's the exact same one or not, but there was a female blackbird on the bird bath again, 24 hours um, ahead of, before she passed. And I just, at that time, I didn't have to, I just sat down right away. I was like, what's the message? What's the message? It's like, it's soon. We're here. It's like
Mm.
that. That was the message. And then she died, within the 24 hours.
Wow.
And so just amazing how birds can bring us messages. But I usually hear it after somebody passes,
Oh, right.
you
Yeah,
know,
they do use birds a lot, don't they? Yeah.
they
And
do.
birds are really good for sitting there and staring at you and saying, "Okay, can you hear me?"
I know. It could be a bird, it could be a lizard, but birds, yeah.
Birds are really good at that.
I
Definitely. Oh,
know. You see these
yeah.
things where they'll land on your shoulder and just,
Hmm. Yeah, and especially the ones and also when they chirp and they sing, I can, and you probably can too, Kim, and anyone who's sensitive can hear in the sound, in the chirping and in the singing, the message.
uh
Does that make sense?
yeah, yeah. I feel like birds sing light language.
Yes, they do. I know.
It's light language.
Mhm. I know. I love it.
Yeah, yeah.
And I was writing my book today about communicating with the trees, and
Oh,
in San Antonio is when I first when the mother tree started communicating with me in our backyard, and she was huge with my healing journey, and I didn't know at the time, 20 something years ago, I didn't realize I could talk to that we could talk to nature, we could talk to fairies, we could talk to birds, or communicate with trees. Really? And so I could actually, and if you listen, you can hear the trees talking to you.
Hmm.
You can hear them
Right.
talking. Yeah.
I know, it's amazing.
Hmm.
Especially when you go to like a rainforest or something like
Yeah,
that's power.
definitely. Yeah.
Hmm.
They have
Yeah.
a lot to say.
Yes. Yeah. There's a book called Intimacy with Trees. It has a lot of wonderful messages from trees.
Oh, wow. Oh, I have to look that up.
Yeah, Intimacy with Trees. I use it sometimes.
Nice.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was a pecan tree in our backyard in San Antonio. Um, beautiful big pecan tree. She was the mama. She was the mother. She told me who her mate was and who her youngins, her younglings were. Showed me all that.
Wow.
Mm, I know.
I know.
But
I've heard a lot of people talking about stories from trees too.
I yeah, it just threw me, floored me and threw me for a loop. But I loved that tree so much. After that, I had to be touching the tree and sitting, hugging the tree. I'm a tree hugger, yes, and hugging that tree and just loving that tree.
Yes.
She ended up
Yeah.
being a
And they
healer for
communicate
me.
with each other, as you know.
Hmm. Hmm. Yeah,
There's
definitely.
a whole big system. I remember when I was in Portland, I had a community garden.
Oh, okay.
And I was watering my garden, and there was a woman that lived. I mean, that lived. She didn't live there. She had a garden as well. Her name was Coral, and she taught me about meditating before you go into your garden.
Hmm.
And she was very in tune. You'd go to her garden. I mean, oh my God, the fairies. I mean, it's amazing. Gnomes, fairies, and it was the first time with her that I actually saw a gnome in my garden. Um, but anyway, she said, "Well, how you doing?" I said, "Fine." And I said, "It's my birthday today." And she said, "Well, did you tell your garden it's your birthday?" I didn't even think about telling. I'm just usually in a hurry. I'm just watering. And
Hmm.
then I said, "Okay, garden, it's my birthday." And I saw my garden turn gold. I mean, like a foot above all the plants, the whole garden at one time, all big gold. Isn't
Wow, what a happy birthday. What a birthday gift.
I know? I still remember, right? It seems unbelievable, but yeah.
They're so loving. Yeah, I've noticed that gnomes, when I was seeing the fairies and communicating with them, I noticed that gnomes were a lot more shyer and
Oh,
a little bit grumpier sometimes. Did you
oh.
get that?
Well, for me, I just felt like maybe shy because I would see their feet more than I would their face.
Okay. Yeah.
Like their shoes, their red shoes sticking out and things like that.
Or, yeah, because I didn't see them like I saw the fairies. And I felt that they were, and one time they were tricksters too. They'd throw pine cones on me here at the house. They've thrown pine cones on me, and and I look up and I'm like, what? They're like, pay attention to that or something. Yeah. So they have a funny trickster kind of personality from what I have, what I've my
Right.
experience with them.
Yeah, I haven't noticed that so much, but
Okay.
like if you want to attract gnomes, put a little mint or chamomile in your garden for their tea,
Oh, okay. Good to
you
know.
know.
Hmm.
Hmm.
Mint
Hmm.
chamomile.
Yeah.
This is funny. I love this. Maybe it was just the certain gnomes that I attracted that were kind of grouchy or were
Well, I mean,
pushy.
I haven't seen that many gnomes, so I don't have a
Yeah.
good baseline, to
Yeah.
to say.
I
Hmm.
haven't either. I feel they're super shy. They don't trust. Maybe they don't aren't as trusting.
Well, it also could be that you're more from the fairy realm, so you
Yeah,
find you are more easier to connect with the fairies or something. I mean, I don't know, but I
that
mean,
makes
even though
sense.
I know they're all kind of together, but
No,
hmm.
that makes more sense. Yeah,
Okay,
I didn't think
yeah,
about that.
yeah,
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 thanks.
right.
This is fascinating. Do you have any more hospice stories of
Oh
in?
gosh, let me
You probably
see.
have tons and tons.
Oh well, I mean, yeah, I'm just trying to think what would be a good one. The main one of the things I just want to say is that do people can they ask for who they want to meet them? And we kind of talked about this a tiny bit, but I mean, I think you can call in. Like if you want Mother Mary to meet you, or you
Oh,
want Master Yeshua to meet you when you're transitioning, I think that yes, you can do that. But the family's always going to be there too.
mhm.
And so I want to encourage people to think about who they would like to meet them, but know that spirits still may have their own agenda, you know, they'll know too. But Mother Mary comes a lot for me when I'm working, when I'm in the hospice world. And I feel kind of like she's my right hand helper. Like my mom is too. My mom's a spirit too. I mean, my mom's a party planner on the other side.
That sounds like my mom.
She helps, even though she helps them plan the parties for the greeting party.
I love that.
But I think I know Mother Mary too. So sometimes I see the big archangels or the big angels, or maybe it's Mother Mary, and just know that it's all sacred, no matter what. And really, the more sacred you can create your environment, the more inviting, right? Because when we invite spirit, they're going to come closer.
Right. Right.
And I think that's so important for all of us in our transition, and to think outside the box of what you want. Like when you have, or when you're with a loved one and you want to do something like a ritual at the moment of the last breath, think about that ahead of time. What do you want? Like an example, I was with a man, he passed. Right before he passed, his family and friends came and they were saluting. He was still very aware, really. I mean, pretty aware. I'm not going to say totally aware. He can swallow, but he loved brandy. And so they all had a little, whatever, cup of brandy, or, jigger. I don't know what you call it, but a little glass of brandy.
In this realm or the other realm?
In this realm.
This realm. Okay.
In this realm. And then they put some drops of brandy on his tongue. And then they just cheered him, and then he died. He died then.
Wow.
So that was kind of like their ritual of transition, even though they hadn't planned for him to die just then, but he did. But you can think about these things that would be meaningful to you.
Right.
It could be a special blanket. It could be a flower. It could be, I had a lady recently, she said their song between she and her boyfriend was something about the broken arrow. There's a song, right? The broken arrow. I don't know. Well, anyway, they always talked about this song. I don't even remember who sings it. And she said, I just bought an arrow, like last week or something, and he was getting ready to die. And she said, and I said, what are you going to do for a ritual transition? She said, you know what? I'm going to break the arrow and I'm going to put it over his heart. So let him go. So that's lovely too.
That is lovely.
Yeah. But back to the men that had the brandy. So he was friends with I want to just talk about the dogs, because dogs also grieve. Dogs know, cats, they all know what's happening. And I want to honor their grief process as well. But this golden retriever who lived across the street pushed the door open at her house and came, scratching the door. I don't think it was that uncommon for this dog to come over, but, came across the street. And they let the dog in. The dog, nobody said anything. The dog just came right on and upstairs, jumped on the bed where the man had just passed, licked him in the face, like goodbye, and then left again.
Oh,
I mean,
wow.
They are there. So when we pass, I'm sure a piece of us lets our animal friends and family know.
Sure. Beautiful.
So,
Kim, what are your thoughts on perhaps someone who's transitioning, who doesn't believe in the higher realms, doesn't believe that, okay, but maybe their family does. So how, and have you come across anything like that?
Oh yeah.
Okay.
All the time.
And what, and
well, it can go both ways even, but
yeah.
Well, you have to respect the person who's transitioning. You don't ever push anything, and you just allow them to be in their process. You can only support them where they are. You can't change them. You can support them. And I would suggest to a family like that who does believe and the person doesn't, is that you invite spirit as much as you can. Just bring the light. and then bring the tunnels, open the windows, just like you would do with anything else, but you're just not going to do Bible verses or prayers, or, you know what I mean? Or whatever, even anything spiritual. If they don't believe in spirit at all, no matter in what dimension, then you just still, but still they can understand the idea of flowers. They can understand the idea of music, you know?
Yeah.
You just don't have to say exactly that this represents spirit, because we know flowers to me are like the face of God, you know, and music can be the face of angels or the sound of angels. So you don't have to just say the words, but just know that you're bringing them goodness and
Right.
light for
Right.
their journey. And you can just say, have a wonderful journey.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
Yeah.
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 And some people do, you know, even though they don't believe in anything, they'll say, "Oh, I was wrong. Oh, I do see. Oh, wait, look at that. There's my mom," or whatever. You know, that
Right.
happens a lot too.
Yeah. My dad was like that. He's my biological dad. And he didn't believe, he believed when you're dead, he called it worm food, that kind of thing.
Yeah,
And we'd have these debates because I had just started uh, stepping into my psychic abilities, my gifts and abilities at that time. And so we have these debates, and he said, "Oh, psychics are scam artists. They go to psychic school to be scam artists and all this and everything." And
yeah,
I said, "That's okay, Dad. When we meet on the other side, I'll have the last laugh, okay?" Yeah. So that's all right. You can believe what you want. Um, he was raised strict Catholic, and he's like, "I don't believe that God's following you around and saying you can't do this and this and this." Yeah. And I agree with that. But he just didn't, he was more atheist than anything. And so when he passed, my sister and I were blessed enough to be there with him. Um, when he passed, he thought that you just die and
yeah.
that's it. That's over. The night he passed, I had an outer body, and he was still sleeping. He was still in his bed sleeping. It was the next night. And um, so I went to him and I woke him up and I said, Dad, you're awake. You're not sleeping. You actually transitioned. I explained to him that he had died, right? And he was very surprised that he still had a body, that he was still alive,
Yeah,
basically, that he wasn't worm
yeah.
food. And when my sister and I drove to the memorial service afterwards, a few days later, he used to hang out at the local pub. He had his own bar stool, he had his own key. And as we're driving to his memorial service, I have this clear vision of him. He sends to me, and he's sitting on his bar stool at his local pub, and he's wearing a dunce cap. It says dunce.
Wow.
Yeah,
Beautiful.
I know, right?
Love that. Yeah.
So yeah, he would have slept through I don't know how long, but that was
Um,
something that I felt that, and my sister was there too. We both met him in that dream that night at the same time, and helped
Amazing.
him and helped him. Yeah.
Oh, wow. Nice. Wow. You've had some wonderful experiences with that.
Mhm. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's when you become aware of spirit, and aware of our multi-dimensionality, like you say, I think that things just change for you, and
Yeah.
you open up, and you're able to open up to the spirit world, and it's don't you agree, Kim, that this is really natural?
Oh, yeah.
The other is unnatural.
Yeah. It's natural to die, you mean, or
I mean,
natural?
it's
Yeah.
natural to be in tune with the spirit
Oh,
world,
yeah.
and
It's
for us to,
natural.
it's natural
It
what
is
you're doing.
natural.
Yeah. And helping, when we have the chance, when someone transitions and knows they're going to transition, when we have that chance, it's natural. We used to do this. We used to know to help people transition,
That's right.
and
Oh,
um
yeah.
and be in tune that way. We
Right,
lost
right,
we
right.
lost that, and
Well, we have, but we're getting it back.
you're right.
We're
Thank
working on
you to
it.
you. Yes.
And to you, right? To
Yes,
all of us, right?
to
I mean,
all
to
of
all of
us.
us in this kind of a community, that
Yeah,
we need each other, because if it's not for each other, then maybe we'd be a little bit lost. You know, it
right.
helps to have them more. And I see it as getting bigger and bigger, you know, the wide range of light workers coming together to lift up the world. Yeah.
Definitely.
I just think it's only getting bigger.
Hmm.
Yeah.
It is. It is. It's expanding. It's expansion, and it's really exciting that we are here during these times. Very
Yeah.
exciting.
Yeah.
Uh,
Thank you.
Thank
Thank you.
you.
Thank you for having me too. I have enjoyed this.
Well, so have I. Yeah, I've well, I always enjoy hanging out with you anyway, but this is a little bit of a different way we've been hanging out. So I really
Right.
appreciate it, and thank you for being here. And
Thank
hopefully
you.
you come back again and share some more
Let's
experiences.
do it.
Okay.
Okay.
All
Yeah.
righty.
Thank you so much, Sharon.
Uh-huh. Thank
Okay.
you. And thank you
Bye,
everyone for being
everybody.
here.
Thank you.
Yeah. Oh, wait. Please share how people can get in contact with you. I will put your
Oh, sure.
information, the details. Yes.
Okay. Mediumkim.com is my website.
Okay.
Yeah. And I have a YouTube channel too, Medium Kim. But yeah,
That's a
mediumkim.com.
yes, and visit Kim's YouTube channel. It's really beautiful and amazing. She has some really cool people on there too. Yeah, and cool information. Definitely.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you
Blessings.
everyone. Don't forget to
Bye.
do all that YouTube stuff, like and subscribe and all that. Okay.
Yes, it helps.
I know,
Thank you.
right? It does.
Yeah.
All right. Don't go anywhere.